Hey there, this is your host Brian, and I'd like to introduce you to our special guest today, Paul Beauchemin of PI Profits Agency. Paul Beauchemin brings deep business experience into the private investigator industry. He is president of PI Profits, a results-oriented marketing, sales, and customer service agency dedicated exclusively to private investigators. He is the creator of the Genius Minds of Investigation project and also previously created and launched Sherlock Docs, an online tool to help PIs create reports and share them with clients using 21st century technology. Today we're going to talk about 7 steps to private investigator marketing success. Paul, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Glad to be with you, Brian.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you. And I know you're very much a man of business. You like to get right into things. So how about we go right into these different steps?
Sure.
Okie doke. So the first step is to get your strategy right, for PIs to get their strategy right. So how would a PI go about creating a strategy and why?
Well, when I look at PI websites, you see them talking about dozens of different investigations they may perform or things they may do. There's actually something like 54 or more different activities that a PI may engage in. And the first strategy I really suggest for PIs is to try to differentiate yourself and make yourself a specialty in one niche primarily. And there's a lot of pushback I get from PIs about that because, they say, well, we're excluding a lot of the marketplace. But really what happens is that when you become well known for a specialty, what happens is you actually attract more people to you because you become an expert, an authority figure. And being an authority figure is one of the secrets of persuading people to act. And just by being an expert in one area, you can actually attract people for multiple areas of investigation. So that's the first thing, is really to differentiate your business, create a specialty niche. And once you do that, I think it's really important to think about what is your ideal client. Can you define your ideal client? How old are they? Are they male or female? What are they doing? Their career, their family. What are their worries and concerns? How do they talk? We have a thing we call our customer avatar, and basically that is you have this picture and you give him a name or her name, and this is your ideal client that if you were talking one-on-one to this client, you would be able to sound like a normal conversation. And that's how people like to be talked to. That's like how people like to buy things. Is when you're talking one-on-one. Referrals are usually a big method of getting clients in this business especially. And the way people get referrals is because they talk to their friends. And so if you have a specialty, let's say you could be missing children, it could be infidelity, it could be insurance fraud, whatever. If you know what that specialty is, and you could talk to that person in their own language, and they could understand, you could talk to them with the concerns and worries that they have, you will become an authority and you'll attract more people. So that's what I mean by getting a strategy right. To really differentiate yourself and then define your ideal clients.
Oh, absolutely. And all of that ties in. So once you understand the ideal client that you're looking for, then, like you said, they go and they tell their friends and you get referrals, and people are typically friends with people who are like them. So then you get more clients who are at least somewhat like your previous clients, and you just keep that up. You keep getting clients that you're good at working with, who are great for your business and who love doing business with you.
Right. And, if you have attorneys for clients, you don't talk to attorneys the same way you talk to somebody that's looking for an infidelity investigation. And so the language on your website, the language in any copy material you have really is tremendously different, and you have to take that into account.
Absolutely. And that leads us into our second step, which is to make your conversion funnel into an hourglass. And I need to know, Paul, what do you mean by making an hourglass?
Okay, so most people think of a conversion funnel. They get, a bunch of leads and they convert them, and finally they sell them, and that's the end of the funnel. But
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about an hourglass, let's think about the top part. Top part has got 3 steps. There's a know us part, like us part, and trust us part. And then the bottom of the funnel, there's the try us, hire us again, and then refer us. So let me talk about, the top part. That's a know us. And that's typical advertising, articles, referred leads, just getting your name out there, lead generation. The like us part is more, when people land on your website, do they find it attractive? They find it interesting. When they call your office, is your receptionist pleasant? Do they give them information? If you have an email newsletter, you're basically trying to get them to like you, because another persuasion technique in Robert Cialdini's book, Persuasion, is getting people to like you. So you want to get them to like you with the material they see. And then there's a trust us part of the hourglass, and that's maybe white papers about your business. That may be going and doing local presentations about your business to local groups of attorneys or whatever is in your area, and getting people to know you. And when they know you, then they can trust you. So that's the first part. And obviously, you narrow down the number of people that are attracted to you, and you go through the hourglass, the middle of it. And then you get into the bottom part, and that's where you try to expand this. And, first is you may get them to try you. Can you offer them a 30-minute free consultation or something like that, where they can get a chance to try you out without having to pay you. And then hiring you, obviously. This is a new customer, wow, delivery of great service and, a good financial transaction. And then as you expand that, you want to hire you again. Obviously, if you give them good service, you want to stay in contact with them so they hire you again. And finally, the expansion is a systematic referral system. So not only do you have clients that are hiring you again, but you ask them to refer you to their friends. And so you expand the funnel at the other end of the hourglass. So that's what I mean by the hourglass. It's pretty big in the top. It kind of narrows down, but then as you build clients, you try to expand those clients into a greater network of referrals that come back to you.
And that's a great way to look at it. I never thought of it that before because I've always been taught, here's the sales funnel where you find lead, hook the lead, and try and get money out of them. And that was at the bottom of the funnel, and that's usually where it goes. But what you're talking about, it basically opens it up for far more potential income, not just from that client, but from all the other clients that they can help bring to you. And they're going to, because they, at the top part of the hourglass, they know you, then they like you, and they trust you. So you already set it up. So it's perfect. You're in the prime position to ask for more business and to get more business out of the people they know.
Exactly. And if you understand this business well, you know that you're going to get most of your clients from referrals, or referrals from people that either have done business with you or know about you. And so expanding that part of your funnel is very, very important. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that takes us into our third step, which is to deliver great content. Now, how does creating content help a private investigator?
Well, it's kind of interesting because with the internet and the advent of all this technology, people do a lot more research now when they're looking to hire people or buy anything. If you're going to buy something, you're going to go to Amazon, you're going to check out the reviews and find out what other people are saying. Well, people are doing that for private investigators too. So they want to know if you are an expert on something, if you have solved some cases successfully. They want to know all about you. So when I talk about content, that could be a lot of things. For example, when people visit your website, does it just have 3 words on it, say, we do infidelity investigations and that's it, or, a list of services? Or does it have information, maybe a blog about the PI business? That's a form of content. You want to have something that can educate them. Does it have testimonials? That's a great form of content. Do you have a white paper about your business. You should have a well-developed core story that dives deeply into what makes your firm different from all the PIs down the street. What is your secret sauce? How do you approach customer service? Why should they do business with you as opposed to another PI? Because, there's a lot of PIs out there. There's something like 34,000 investigators in this country alone. So you've got to make yourself stand out. And then another part of content may be some presentations you give, seminars. You might provide some workshops with education to engage public. You could have a frequently asked questions section on your website. People have questions about hiring a PI. What's the process like? Putting that on your website is a great form of content. And then you could put success stories of cases you solved. People are always fascinated by that. So if you found a missing child or something like that, or help somebody find out about their their spouse was cheating or something. You don't have to list names. Obviously, you don't want to list names, but people are intrigued by stories. Stories are probably one of the best-selling tools out there, really. And just putting a few stories about cases. And I've talked to a lot of PIs, and they have a lot of interesting stories about cases, and I always find them very fascinating. But few of them ever talk about that. So that's what I mean by content.
And all the content on your site, like what you're saying, if they had a blog, you're also providing value for the people who are reading it, especially in the form of stories, because you show off, you demonstrate your skills and your methods, and at the same sense, if they have the same problem that you're solving in this story, they can relate to it. And I noticed that I was doing research for another client of mine, and I was going through the top 10 products in ClickBank for the self-help category, and I noticed that they all have in common that they tell a story in order to help people relate to them. And so when you tell a story, it seems to really, really hook people better than anything else. And the fact that you're delivering that value, you can give them advice on your blog, whether it be in, like you said, webinar or text or video, what have you. Then they'll feel far more comfortable with you. They'll feel compelled to do business with you, and you've already established a great sense of trust and authority with them.
That's right. And, it all works together. There's all those persuasion. Authority is a persuasion technique. You're building expertise. You're with your success stories, you can build likability in there. Making yourself appear a very likable, engageable person. So there's a lot of persuasion techniques you can use to, with that content, to help attract people to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that takes us to step 4, which is to make your online presence the hub of your marketing. Now, why should online be the hub? And what about offline marketing? Should they just disregard that?
Oh, no. Offline marketing is very important. For example, referrals, I mentioned, is primary source of customers, new customers for PI. We have the data to show that. So what I talk about here is, because online is becoming so big, is making it the center of where you funnel all the people in order to engage them offline. So you funnel them online to engage them offline. And, think of your website, you're driving people there from, it could be from a YouTube, it could be from social media, it could be from articles that you write, it could be from even referral cards that you give out, okay? You could send out postcards, direct mail advertising with personalized URLs that drive people to your website. So a website is a great way to think of how to focus your business, because number one, it becomes very easy to keep track of metrics and how much you spend on advertising and what is bringing customers in the door. And the website is a great way to keep track of that. So by making it the center of everything, for example, another way to use it is have subdomains and actually drive people to landing pages. Like if you use pay-per-click advertising, you wouldn't necessarily want them to go to your website, because if you're advertising for infidelity and your website doesn't speak directly to infidelity investigations, you would want them to go to a landing page that eventually the information goes through your website. But there's a whole broad spectrum of things you can do, and I think with the way the internet is these days, that making it the center can become a real good way to keep track of everything that's happening in your business. That's all I mean by that.
Mm. And so, well, because you said don't disregard offline marketing, but what you're saying is you gather people and you build a lot of your trust and authority online, and then you do your business offline, contacting them by phone or having them call you, what have you. And it sounds like that's what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's almost like the hourglass thing, with so the center is, your website, but, you've got this whole system of lead generation, for example. You could have multiple ways to generate leads. It could be, yellow pages. A lot of people put in their URL, their website URL in the yellow pages ad, or a landing page URL, or it could be direct mail campaign. You could drive all this traffic through your website. You could send out your autoresponder email sequences from your website. I'm just thinking online is really...
So it gives you a lot of flexibility, it seems,
right.
and it offers a tremendous leverage. It gives you a lot of power in order to basically fulfill this hourglass that you talked about. You get them into the funneled part of the hourglass, and then it's after that, it's the bottom part where really you are personally interacting with your clients.
Right.
And so that leads us to step 5, which is to create a lead generation trio. And I'm not sure what you mean by that. What is a lead generation trio?
Well, I think of it as 3 items: is advertising and public relations and referrals. So, advertising, you're using direct response advertising in a very highly targeted, measurable way to promote awareness about your business. It's the highest cost, but the most completely controlled way of getting your name out there. There's brand advertising, which is really not suitable for small businesses, but direct response is suitable. But still, advertising, it costs money to do direct advertising. You can't deny that. Whether it's pay-per-click, whether it's the yellow pages, whether it's direct mail, all these things take a little bit of money, and but you can control that, and you can know where the response is coming from. There's ways for you to know. You can have a phone number that is directly attached to an ad medium, and so every time you get a call on that phone number, it's coming from that ad. Same with a personalized URL with a postcard, a direct mail campaign, for example. You can know all about that. So, advertising is one part. Another part is public relations, and that's a game of building relationships with media, basically. Contacting a local TV or radio station and offering to become their expert. I mentioned in another interview using Help a Reporter Out, HARO, where you could sign up for that, and you can become the go-to guy for media people that are looking to interview private investigators that are experts in a special niche. So this goes back to becoming specialized in a niche. Once you become specialized and known in a niche, and you go to a TV station or you sign up in HARO, you will start to be able to use public relations, PR, in order to attract more business to your business, attract more clients. And then the third part of that trio is referrals. And having the mindset of making every customer a referral partner, and make it easy for them to be one, because this is where your highest quality leads are in referrals, because people, we talked about trust, and people trust someone that they get a referral from. If your friend gives you a referral about a certain restaurant, you're going to trust their judgment because you know your friend. They have good judgment, okay? So if your friend or your client gives your name to somebody else, they're going to trust their judgment. They're going to call you. So we want to know, when you give good service to your clients, they're going to be happy to refer people to you. But it's usually not at the top of their mind. And so you have to create a system so that it becomes at the top of their mind. And so that's the third part of this trio is the referral section. So there's advertising, public relations, and referrals.
And I'm through going these different methods of advertising. It also, you mentioned about phone numbers and tracking and what have you, and that's what it really all comes down to is the tracking ability, so you can know which is giving you the greatest return on investment. And in our past conversations, I know you've really emphasized that a lot. But for to be a bit time savvy, I suppose I could say, is you mentioned a system at the end to create a great system, and here that leads into step 6, which is to create and implement a great sales system. Now, how can a PI go about that?
Well, the lack of a systematic approach is probably one of the big weaknesses of many businesses, not just PIs. But let's assume you have defined your ideal client and differentiate your business and are building trust or educating them. This reduces the number of leads that you're chasing and increases the number that are pursuing you. So, we talked in other cases about using something like spin selling so that by the time you get to a buying decision, the clients really will have sold themselves. So, there's kind of 3 parts of that. There's the discovery part where the new leads come in and you have some kind of planned response when they ask for more information. And you're always thinking, what's the next step the lead must take in your sales process? Have you thought about your sales process? What's the logical step this client would take so that you can give them more information? Then when you're talking to them, you have to think about the presentation. What is it? What questions are they typically going to ask, and have a response to those questions? Okay, so a lot of times, you may try to wing it, but if you have a good idea of what the questions are, that because you know this field, you're specialized in a given field, you know what the client, your ideal client, is like, and now you kind of know what their problems are. You've created this avatar of these customers, so now you know what questions they're most likely to ask, and so you have an answer for those. And then those that aren't ready to buy, you've got to kind of nurture them. Okay, so there's a nurturing step, and talk about setting up. If they're not ready to buy now, you put them you get their email, put them into an autoresponder where they get regular educational content that helps keep them, inform them, or educate them about what they're looking for. And in the transaction step of the sales system, you've got to continue to educate them through kind of an orientation process of how you work, how you're going to communicate with them about the status of the case, maybe even a video explaining the process. And finally, in the sales process, you've got to have a review step. This allows you to address issues that didn't go as you expected. Maybe the case wasn't all smooth. Maybe you had a little bit of friction with the client, but that'll help you correct the system. But it also allows you to collect success stories and testimonials. And one of the things of another persuasion technique is called commitment and consistency. So if you talk to a client and they say, "Wow, you did a great job. I really like this," and then when you ask them for a referral, because internally they've already told you, "Hey, I like what you did," they're going to be willing to follow through and be consistent and say, "Hey," to their friend, "Hey, I work with this PI. He was great. He did a great job for me. So this is another persuasion technique that kind of works.
And so, this in itself, I remember we went over the importance of setting up a system for everything to go by. So if a customer does this, then you put them through here. If they're doing this, you put them through here. So you have a process for everything, and it streamlines everything so that you save time and your conversion rate goes up because you have a systematic approach to catering to these customers accordingly and for whatever level they're at in your business, whether it's just entry, just curious, to a full-on paying client to getting more referrals out of them. And I think you told me about it, like the book you read, I think it was called The E-Myth, wasn't it? It's something like that, and it really emphasized the importance of having these systems in place, which is what makes it so successful.
Right. Yeah, the E-Myth, because it is an E-Myth. Yeah, they talk about systematizing your business. Exactly.
Yeah, and which takes us into our seventh and final step, to live by the calendar. Now, what does that mean for a private investigator?
Well, that means you've got to make marketing a habit. So a lot of PIs will try a little bit. They'll do some marketing. They'll get some cases. They'll feel overwhelmed. Oh, I've got too many clients, too much to do right now, and they won't do any marketing. And so at some point, that job or those jobs will be completed, and now there'll be nothing in the pipeline. And so they'll go through a dry spell, and they're looking for clients. They don't have enough faces. They've got employees, or they've got, whatever overhead, and they've got to make payments. And now they've got to scramble to go out there and try to get new leads generated. So what I'm trying to say by live by calendar is be persistent and consistent with your marketing. Choose a set of simple and effective things and do them consistently. And, test what works against what doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, stop doing it and do what works, but keep doing it consistently and persistently. And when you move purposely in a specific direction, you get results in unexpected ways. The phone rings, and it may be a prospect that you talked to 3 months ago, or someone that's been on your email list for a year. You never know. But being persistent and consistent, you're planting seeds. It's like the farmer. If you plant one crop of seeds in the spring, you get some at the end of the summer. You get some crops harvested. But now you've got no more food for the rest of the winter. So, but if you plant, if you're in a climate, let's say, where you can plant, every month you can be planting a certain amount of seeds, you'll always have a harvest coming in. And, you've got to think about marketing in that way. It's always, your crop is going to come in. It may not all come in at the same time, but if you're always planting, you're going to be harvesting continuously. And it's going to allow you to choose the best clients, the highest paid clients, and it's going to keep your pipeline full, and you're not going to have to ever sweat or worry about, not having enough clients. And if you have too many, you can always set up an alliance with another PI and say, hey, there's lots of PIs looking for work, so I think they'd be happy to take your business if you have an excess. So don't ever worry about having too many clients. Worry about doing things consistently, living by the calendar, being persistent and consistent in your marketing.
That gets into a whole other category in and of itself, into partnerships and outsourcing and what have you. That is great information, though, Paul, definitely. And I know our listeners are going to get a tremendous value out of it. And I know I've learned a lot. I learned a lot from you, and I always look forward to having our talks. So, but to close up, because we are running out of time here, if you are listening to this interview and you'd like to learn more about how you can grow your private investigation business, Paul has generously offered a free 30-minute best practice marketing investigation briefing for listeners of this interview. In this briefing, Paul will help you identify what might be the biggest holes in your marketing strategy, as well as the biggest opportunities for additional profit in your PI business. And I know just from listening to what you have with these 7 steps, you're going to get a lot of value out of what else he has to offer. So keep in mind that the spots are limited, and will be made available on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you're interested, even just curious to learn more, then just sign up for one of these spots and reserve a free one-on-one marketing briefing call with Paul at no cost. Go to easypiprofits.com. Once again, all one word, easypiprofits.com. It's been an excellent interview, Paul. Thank you so much for being with us again.
Thank you, Brian. You have a great day.